and welcome back to UE5 BP Guru. Today we're going to be looking at continuing on with our battle code. Before I do begin that and go through it, I just want to say you'll probably notice this has changed a little bit. That's because I am now actually working on a lot more of the world building stuff, so I kind of removed the trees. I was trying to sort of mess around with the landscape, so it looks a bit different. So if you're wondering, oh my god, what happened, it's because things have changed a little bit. But for now, I think it's probably best to just concentrate on our battle code. So I'm going to open up our battle code, our battle proxy. So I just want to recap a few things, just because I just want to make sure everyone understands how this is kind of flowing at the moment. So by now you should have your battle world set up. You should have if you're thinking about the battle world itself, you should have two player spawn. You should have a player spawn. You should have an NPC master in there. You should also have two just like little targets. They're just empty blueprints that you can call to spawn your creatures in that location. Let's go back to the event graph, because this is stuff we shouldn't be looking at yet. And from that point, we also went through this kind of beginning segment where we have our event begin play. We have the third person character, so we can set that variable, so we can call all of its variables and use them as and when we need to. We check to see if it's an encounter. If it is an encounter, we spawn our encounter. If it's not, we spawn. We do the fight trainer dialogue. You don't need to worry about that because I'm not covering that. We switch the camera to our that should be our E trainer, I believe. That's probably where that's gone wrong. So we have our yeah, just making sure the cameras are right. So I have a lot of cameras in my scene. You'll probably noticed last time we looked at it. So I'm just making sure this all makes sense. And then actually, in theory, I should have another camera there. I'm just going to plug this in. Sorry, I shouldn't be doing this during the tutorial where I'm trying to explain how to do things and I'm now mending code. Let's just drag that back a little bit so I've got a bit more space to fit this in. There you go, that'll be fine. I'll fix that up a little bit later on. And this one should actually be our enemy. There we go. So, yeah, so going back to it, we obviously check our spawn encounter. Then we obviously have our encounter fight start dialogue, and that goes straight into spawning ours. We also then have the trainer, so we focus on the trainer. We then check the trainer team, pick the trainer team to send out, which is here, spawn trainer creature, and we switch that camera to our enemy as well. Then once we've spawned either a wild or a trainer ringmon, we then spawn ours, which is obviously check for our ringmon, which one has health, which one doesn't. Then we do our start dialogue, we then switch to our party, and then we spawn party creature. There we go. And I'm just going to drag that out so it still sits inside the comment. And that's basically what we did. And we also create our battle widget just so that we can add it to the viewport. So that was what we covered yesterday. Last episode. I know that was about 2 weeks ago now, but I've been doing a lot of testing and making sure things works before I do the tutorials. Now there's still a lot of, and I mean a lot of testing to do. There's still so much testing, but for the point I have it at the moment, I believe from all the testing that I have done, all the moves work. And they're ready to go. Now this has changed quite a bit, so please bear in mind things will be very different to how they were in the last episodes. We'll also probably be covering a lot of new information over the last from the last few sort of battle code tutorials I did. So there's also going to be a lot of new stuff. So one thing you'll see down here, now this here is our player and enemy attacking code. They used to be in a function, but the problem with functions are they fire every frame. So they try and calculate everything in a frame. So I wanted to add in multi-hit moves, and the problem with that is the multi-hit moves, you need a second delay in between them to allow the damage to take effect, and then you to do your next attack, and then another second. So it doesn't work each frame. So I had to put them in a custom event. So if you have put your player attack or your enemy attack into functions like I did, you need to take them out and put them into a custom event on the main event graph. So let's begin. I've also split up the code we had for our battle thing, so it allows things to happen and not have everything fire off immediately. So the first thing we do is we have our event move slot press, which we looked at in the battle widget. I will have a look over that again at the end. So we look at our event move slot press. We pressed our button basically. Yes. I'm just trying to think of what's going on. Yeah. So we've clicked our button in the widget. That fires through to this code here. Okay. So this has been pressed. We then do a speed check, which if I go into that is literally, it's just checking to see if our selected party's speed is greater or equal to our current ringmon, the one that's in focus, our enemy ringmon. Is it equal to or faster than their speed? Now, if that's true, we know our player's going first. If it's false, we do a second check just to make sure that our creature's speed is less than our enemy's speed. And if that's true, we set player first. Now, this is just a secondary check. It doesn't really matter. You don't need it. You could just go based on this. Because if it's not equal or greater to our enemy's speed, we know it's going to be false. But I've kept mine in just for a secondary check. But you don't need it. You can just use the first one in theory. So we've done our speed check. And we have a result come back that shows us whether we are true or false. Now, during my setup, a lot of this is actually brand new, and I've just realized I have a boolean here that sets the player first, or it doesn't set the player first. And actually, I'm also then going P first. I could actually, in theory, just use my original variable I'd set up, set player first. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that now, and although is that going to be messing anything up? I might not do that right now. I will have a look at that. Basically, this is pointless because we have a boolean we set inside the speed check that says the player can go first, and we're setting that here. I don't know why I set that there, to be honest, but it's fine. We could have just plugged this immediately into here and do the same effect. It might be because I'm using this later on. If I am, I might change it to that other boolean and just delete this boolean out completely. But for now, we set P first, so we know that the player's going first. We check that branch, and if the player's going first, we go to a custom event called player turn, and then we go to, if it's false, we go to a custom event called enemy's turn, which is here. And you're probably wondering why I've split this out. Now, the reason I've split this out is because I want to be able to run this entire code. Before, we were running the player's turn and then running the enemy's turn. You'll see why this is relevant later. But we're going to basically run player turn first. We'll go down that route first, then we'll go down the enemy first, and you'll see why they're better off in their own custom events. So to begin with, we go to our player turn. We set the party as the active camera view. We check our party condition, and this is for anything status related. I've created an enum. If I go to my content drawer and go to my creatures, I have I should have somewhere a list status enum. Now I have here all the statuses I want to use within my game. So that's none, which is obviously means there's no status condition applied to the creature. Frozen, poisoned, paralyzed, burned, confused, and asleep. Once you've created this status enumeration, you need to add it to your creature information. Very important that it adds to your creature information, because that's where I've taken mine from. You could put it on your base stats. It doesn't matter where you put it, as long as it's within your master creature, so that we can manipulate it later on down the line. So let's go into check party condition. Now this is just a very simple check where it's getting that active status and checking to see if it is true or not. So are we frozen? Are we asleep? Are we paralyzed? Are we confused? Now if we are frozen or asleep, we will do a party status check, which at the moment is 0.25. We get a random float range within 0 and 1. If that comes back, and we check to see if it's greater or equal to that random float. Sorry, other way around. We check if the random float is greater or equal to this party status check. If it comes back true, we're activated as none. And actually, I've just realized a mistake. That should be less or equal to. Because what happens is this is set to 0.25. Once it goes false, we do a check and we add 25 to it, giving it a greater chance at being less than this value, which means we can we want it to come under, not over. If it's over, there's a greater chance of it basically becoming true and then setting the active status to none. So let's do that now, just so we are all on the same page. Here we go. So now we'll get a more accurate form of frozen and asleep. So basically we have a 1 in 4 chance the first time we roll this to become unfrozen or not asleep, or if we wake up. If we don't hit that 0.25 in this random check, we'll add 25 to this player status check, so that the next time we use a move, we get to re-roll. And by doing that, we'll then have a 50% chance of becoming awake or unfrozen. And if obviously we roll again, we'll have a 3 out of 4 chance of etc, etc. And then the 4th turn, we will always wake up or become unfrozen. So the next check we do is, are we paralyzed? I should add frozen. I should add frozen, paralyzed, frozen, and no, paralyzed, burned, or yeah, I haven't done every status in here, have I? Okay, so then there's 2 more to add into here, but I would do this very similarly. Oh no, we do a status check for sorry, I tell a lie. We do a frozen, frozen. I keep saying frozen, burned or poison check. That comes later. But for now, we check to see if we're paralyzed. Now, if it hits less or equal to 0.33, we can't move, and we just skip our turn. If we if we hit under 0.33. Again, I think this should be the other way around. Let me think about this logically. So we have 0 to 1 chance. If it hits under 0.33, we can't move. It should be the other way around. If it's over 0.33, we can move. Correct. Sorry, I think it is correct. Thinking it through my brain. So if we hit under 0.33, we can't do a move. That does make sense actually in my brain. And here we go. We've got confused. Now at the moment, it doesn't do damage to itself. It just skips your move at the moment. I've just realized what that does. Wait there. Actually, no. No, it does. Oh, it does. It removes 0.15 damage to yourself, actually. So it does do damage. My apologies. I did set this up. And all this is it gets your selected party creature, does all the normal making of your final stats, etc. And it times your max health by 0.15. And then it minuses it off. So it's not a big damage dealer by the looks of things. But I can always up that if I choose to. So that's setting your party condition. And as I said, the rest is all the same. Updates your Ringmon party. Now, this possibly is quite new. It's very crappy setup, to be honest, but it works for me. All I'm doing is I'm checking every slot of my party. Is it equal to 0, equal to 1, etc. Is this selected party struct? Because when we save our selected party mon information, we're setting that party slot index to this selected creature. If it comes back 0, we know it's slot 1. If it comes back 2, we know it's slot... if it comes back 1, we know it's slot 2. If it comes back 2, it's slot 3, etc. So, using this information, we can basically just update that slot individually. So, for example, you can see it here. I'm not going to show you everything down because it's exactly the same. So, if it's equal to 0, and that comes back true, we set our Ringmon party, but we don't want to overwrite all 6 slots. So what we do is, I've just set up this very small system where we get the third party character, we get his Ringmon party, we break it, and then we get the selected party mon and we slot that into slot 1 because it's equal to 0. And then we set the Ringmon party. Everything else just gets plugged in so it doesn't get overwritten, and then we return that node. And it's as simple as that. It's exactly the same all the way down until we get to false, which does nothing. But we should never get a result that's false. So that's updating Ringmon. And that will be used a hell of a lot in this code, because after every move, after every decision, you have to update your Ringmon party so that it still comes through correctly the other side. And that's pretty much status conditions, to be honest. You can see it here again. I've updated the Ringmon party after we've set it back to none. Excuse me. So far, you can't get healed from confusion, but at the moment, I'm not too worried about that. And then party healed, party can't move, goes to false, and the player healed. Wonder what that was for. Not sure what the player healed was for, but the player can't move is obviously definitely important. So, we come back to our event graph. I didn't think this one through. Bear with me. Okay, so if we pull that out, we obviously run our dialogue. And then we're going to have to do a status check here. And we check to see if player can't move. And if we can move, so it's false, we obviously just go into our delay. We do whatever we need to do. Actually, this is probably in the wrong place. Yeah, I think that's in the wrong place. We want to remove the parent no matter what. So let's do that. The branch goes then into here. If it's not valid, we do that. So if it's false, the player can move. And I think this is where is that player first, this P first comes into play, because down here we use it, P first. And we're just gonna copy this for a second. Where are we going here? Why is it not copied? Had a bit of a technical difficulty there. Okay, so we get the branch. If it's true, player can't move, we then have to do a check for P first. We do that. So I'll just put this up here. So if it's false, we know we can carry on attacking. If that comes back that we can't move because of a status condition, let's make a little bit of space so it still all makes sense. We will have to do this, as I said, for the enemy. If it's true the player was first, we can then get the enemy turn. But if it's false, the player was not first, we can end turn. Like so. Okay? So again, the enemy turn is obviously a custom event we've created. End turn is also another custom event. Okay, so it goes like this. That's how it should look in the end. And the player attack is still pretty similar to how it was before. Player attacking 2 is another custom event. It's called 2 because I still have the other ones named as a function. So just call yours player attacking if you can. And your input pin still needs to be there for the move ID, which is just an integer. Should be simple enough to add to your custom event. And that's coming from the battle UI. Then we do our enemy turn. Again, very similar thing. I haven't done the dialogue for the enemy yet, so that's why there's big gaps. But we check the enemy condition. This is a very similar thing, but we're just getting that current ringmon, and it's all the same. And then we have all of our damage being dealt, and we update that current ringmon. The difference with this is we don't have to update that trainer, the trainer information until like pretty much the end. So we can do all this on the fly just using this current ringmon, because all of that information comes from the all of the information we're using throughout this comes from that current ringmon. Everything else comes directly from the ringmon party. So it's all very similar. Enemy can't move is on every one of them. 0.1, 0.1. This one again probably needs to be changed to equal to or less equal. So again, very similar stuff. Oh gosh, my computer's being very slow. It does not like me recording while also trying to code. It doesn't. It's not a big fan. Right. Okay. So that looks more makes more sense, and it does exactly the same stuff. Similar variables, enemy status checks, and things like that. All are very much the same, and of course we're getting the same build struct, and we're setting that member for active status. All very similar stuff. And then once we're done, we set the enemy status check back to 0.25, and we set the enemy can't move to false, so we can move. Okay. Very, very similar stuff. You'll find that a lot of the enemy code is just duplicated, but uses its own variables for all this sort of stuff. So let's close that. Oh, that's the speed check. We don't need the dex entry. So I'm just trying to keep everything as relevant as possible, because I've done a lot of my capture code and things like that. So we check our enemy condition. Now, of course, there will be dialogue options eventually going in and all the removing these things and stuff. But we now need to do the same check we did for this by adding that branch in. If it's false, if the thing comes back false, we can move. And if it's true, we just need to do is P first. And again, if it's false, so this basically just needs to switch. If the player went first, we need to end turn, and if they didn't, we just need to do player turn. Okay, very similar stuff. So that covers basically the setup of everything, and then we'll just show off end turn, and then we'll move into the actual attacking stuff. So we go into end turn. We do 2 checks now for burning and poison. So yeah, we do 2 checks for statuses. This is burn and poison. So we get this is the enemy first, third person character. Target is the current ringmon. We do the breakage stuff to get that active status, poisoned and burned. We check for either or. If it comes back false, we just carry on with our day. If it comes back true, we need to update that current ringmon. And all I'm doing is I'm getting all of its information, I'm breaking everything, and I'm getting that maximum health, timesing it by 0.1, and then taking that away from our current HP. If I've got these values wrong, obviously I will update them, but it should be fine. It might be quite big damage, I'm thinking now, at 0.1, but if not, you just need to set it to 0.9, but I can't remember which way it goes around. But yeah, current ringmon, update that, you're good to go. And it's exactly the same for the player status. The only difference is you're setting your selected Ringmon party, or Partymon, and you're updating your Ringmon party. That's the only difference. It's exactly the same information, and obviously you're just setting everything up there. Very, very similar stuff. So hopefully you've got those two down. Okay, then we do a delay, then we do our camera switch. Now I'm not actually switching to anything here. Interesting. It's probably because it's the end of the move, I guess. Oh yeah, it goes back to the kind of wide shot, I guess. Which is fine. Then we set our visibility for our buttons back to visible, which is attack, inventory, party, and run. But that isn't actually needed for me anymore because I always have mine visible, so that's fine. Then we have our move active and attack active both set back to false. And actually, I think I've made a wee bit of a mistake there, but I got a bit crazy there because I still need the battle UI for those. There we go. Very good. Okay, great. So now we can move on to focusing on attacking, player attacking 2, and also the enemy attacking 2. So as I mentioned before, these should be in custom events on your event graph, here and here. And a lot of the code is the same as before, but I will run through it either way. So to begin with, we check to see if the player can't move. If that's true, we just go along all the way down and straight into was the player first. Now, actually thinking about this, that means we didn't need to do this because it'll automatically now go up to here. But I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for right now. I'm doing this check, but it's not necessary. You can literally just go straight into your for each loop. I didn't realize I'd put it into here. That's why I was confused. But there you go. Shows how much I know about my own code, right? So we're doing a for each loop against the move slot. So get your selected party. This is player first, by the way. Player attacking first, just so everyone knows. So we're going to do our selected party mon, break its info to get the creature info, get those move slots, and we put that into a for each loop. From that for each loop, we're checking to see, we're breaking to get the move slot strut, and we're checking to see if the array index equals to our input pin, which is that move ID here, coming from the battle UI, that move ID. And we're checking to see if they're equal. It should always come back true, because those buttons only appear if there is a move. And, oh gosh. And then we're just getting the data table row of that move ID list, which is move list. We plug that move name into there, and then we add that to our selected move. Once that's completed, we come off our player moved used, which is here. That is a dialog box, so you guys don't need to really worry about that too much. Where was I? I'm here. So that's a dialog box. Then we do an accuracy check to see if the move hits, and that is just our enemy, our selected move, and our partymon. What we're doing is we're timesing our move accuracy by our current creature's accuracy. We then get the enemy's evasiveness and times that by that result. And then we check to see if that we get a random float, and we check to see if that is less or equal to that calculation. If it's true, the move hits. If it's false, we return the node as false. Okay, false, true, false for the move hit. We go back to our event graph. We then do a branch check. If it comes back false, we've missed, and we skip ahead all the way to the end of the code where we do that player first branch check. If it comes back true, we make our enemy the active camera switch. And then we're doing a few new checks. Now, this is where it gets a little bit complicated, but hopefully you'll keep up with everything. We create a new custom event called multi-hit. We also create a variable called current multi-count. In my move strut, which I have. I don't know if I've showed that before. I think I have, but we add a max multi-move. So let me open up my multi-hit, my move strut, slot strut, whatever it's called. No, that's the wrong one. What's it called? It's called TM move strut. Here we go. So this is my TM move strut. I've spoke about a lot of this stuff before. It's got your normal move names, descriptions, move types, etc. Move action, move power, PP max, which I haven't actually utilized yet. But we've got debuffs, which I've shown you before. It's just a name strut with a, I think it's a float. Yeah, float value. Then we've got physical, status, self, enemy, and condition booleans. We then have our condition used. So if you want a condition move, you can set it to whatever condition you want it to be. Then we have a condition chance, which I haven't utilized yet. And then we have a max multi-move. And this is, you just put the maximum amount of times you want that move to potentially hit. So once you've done that, you can update your move list to, which should be in a database, to use the maximum. So the minimum should always be 1, and the maximum should always be whatever you want it to be. If your move only is ever going to hit once, just put it in 1. Put in a 1 as your max, and then it will only ever pick 1. And then we set that, whatever that random integer in range is, to be our set current multi count. We then have a new boolean called proceed, which we set to false. We're also doing a check here as well to make sure it is a physical move. If it's not, we just skip ahead to the next part. But if it is a physical move, we use our new custom multi-hit custom event. Call that once you've created it. It should have a boolean input for is physical move. We then pass it onto a branch, which we check to see if proceed is true. If it's false, we do a 1.5 second delay, and we come back into multi-hit. So now let's have a look at the multi-hit itself. So we come off, we do our physical move, which I'll go into in a second. We then do a branch to see if the enemy's health is, and this is all the same, by the way, for the other creature. It's all the same for the enemy attacking phase. We do a current ringmon check to see if its health is equal to or less than 0. If that's true, we can proceed, and we set proceed to true. If it's false, we get our current multi-count value. We then -1, and we set our current multi-count. Then we do a check to see if it is equal to 0. If it's false, we don't do anything. If it's true, we hit proceed. And what this is doing is it's firing off this every 1.5 seconds. It's doing a check to see if we can attack again through this multi-hit. If we can't, then we can move on. Proceed becomes true, and we carry on to the next phase. But before we do that, let's have a look at our physical move. Now, I have been through this in great detail many times before, so I'm just going to go through it one last time. So, with the physical move, we check to see if it is a physical move. Now, if it comes back false, we know it's a special move. So, we get a lot of information here. We're getting our current ringmon, so our enemy ringmons, basic information, and their final stats. We're also getting our selected partymon, so whatever ringmon we've sent out, we're getting their final structs and their basic information. We're also getting the selected move that we've used. We are doing a divide here of defense. We divide our attack by their defense, and here we divide our special defense, our special attack, sorry, by their special defense. Okay, that's what that A divided by attack divided by defense is. AD here is. We set up a new variable called A/D, and we're setting this one if it's a normal move, and this one if it's a special move. Then we're doing a check to see if our move, so like let's say we're using a grass move, matches our move type. Sorry, other way around. So we're seeing if our ringmon is a grass creature, and seeing if the move is a grass creature. If that's true, we get a stab bonus of 1.5. If it's false, we set it to 1. This is to times everything to give you an extra bonus in damage you deal. We are then getting our data table row of type damage. Now I covered this in like episode 2 or 3, but I will bring it up now, just so it's covered again. I've created a data table of different typings and their matchup. So for example, we click on nature, we can see what damage nature does to everything. So it does 0.5 damage to fire, but it does 2 times damage to aqua. It does 1 times damage to lightning, but it does 2 times damage to bug, 1 to air, and 2 to earth, and so on and so forth. I haven't added everything in yet, but I will be doing that over the next few days. So we can just add a new row in and basically set up all of its times information against the other creatures. Once you've done that, we can then get our row type, find the typing response, do a find, and the key here, this key input here, comes from our enemy's type 1. That's why we're getting their basic information, to get their typing, so we can see what our kind of damage is. And then we set that as type 1. If we check, we do a secondary check to see if typing 2 comes out as none. If that's true, typing 2 gets set to 1. We don't do any additional damage. If it does have a second typing, we get the same data table row. We get that data table with row name. The row name also, by the way, is equal to our written move typing. And then whatever we find from typing 2 gets set as typing 2. And then we're obviously doing the damage, which is up here. We'll go through that now. But we set that current Ringmon type, or variable. So now we have to do the actual code. I've used a math expression node for this. And you can see all of that information we've been setting down there is now getting added into this math expression node. So it is, I will talk you through the code now. It is 2 times level. That is the level of our creature, current level, times by 1, divided by 5, times by 2, times by move power, which again comes from the move, times by attack / defense, which is AD. Divide that, all of that by 50, times, I think we add, oh, I can't quite see that there. Is that add? We add 2, then we times it by the stab, which is ST, and then we times it by T1, which is type 1, and then we times it by T2, which is type 2. The 1, if you're wondering why I'm timesing it by 1, now that is because there is a normal check in the code to see if you are the original trainer. If you're not the original trainer, you get a 0.5 increase, 1.5 times bonus to your attack power. I haven't coded that in yet because we haven't got trading, we haven't got a lot of things in there that is required to allow that to be increased. But obviously if that's something you're going for, you will need to add in a check to see if it is your original, you are the original trainer. If you want to know how to do that, I would suggest you add a trainer ID, original trainer ID to the creature. And I would also advise you add a trainer ID to your trainer, and then you would call those 2 values and check if they are equal. If they are not, then you know you get the 1.5 times bonus. But once we've done that current Ringmon, we then just return node. And that's simple as that for the physical move. And then what we're doing is it's moving around and around and around until it becomes, this proceed becomes true. We do a branch, and this check is now checking for, which one is it? It's doing a status check next. If it's true, it has a status ability, then we go into our stat attack, which is, we also need to do 2 Boolean checks in here. Is it affecting the self or is it affecting the enemy? If it's affecting the enemy, we debuff the enemy stats. If it affects the self, we buff the stats of the player. Don't forget, if it is a trainer battle, we have to update our trainer party at this point. And the debuff comes from that debuff list. And you can see I've got health and accuracy down now. It's not just one value. I've added 2 values, health down and health up. And this will benefit or lessen depending on who it's affecting. So health down is obviously debuffing, and health up is buffing. And this is essentially what's happening. I'm timesing these values by this. Now normally I'm using... Normally I would have used maxes, but I'm not this time. I'm going to be using their current value. So it stops you from completely wiping out anyone's attack, because mine do not reset after a battle. That's part of my gimmick of my game, is that your stats will remain as they are until you heal or level up. Now, I don't even think I'm doing it on level up. I think I'm just doing it on healing. So you have to be very careful in my game about not visiting a Poké Center for a while, because your Pokemon will eventually get very, very low on attack, or it could get super buffed. Who knows? If you keep using buff moves, you could get very buffed defense and attack, become absolute units. But there has its drawbacks, because if you get no speed, you may never go first. If you get your evasive put down, you'll never hit anything. So there's drawbacks to everything, but you will not be able to change mine until you visit a Poké Center or Ring Center, whatever you want to call them. So that's debuffing. Then we're updating our party. This is very similar to our original one. But when we set up our current Ringmon, if you remember, we set our current trainer index. And we're just pulling that through to find out what index we're grabbing. And it's very similar in the sense that we update that current ring index. After this check. So we're checking to see if it's 0, 1, 2, 3, or 5. Then we are updating all that information for the trainer. Then once we've done that, we check to see if it is affecting ourselves. If it is, we're buffing our stats. So if you can see here, it's exactly the same. It's just health up, attack up, defense up. So this now means you can do a lot of moves where you up your own stats while decreasing your enemy's stats, and you can do multi-hits at the same time. You can create some basically ridiculously overpowered moves from this, and then we update our Ringmon party and we return the node. Event graph, once we've done our stat attack, we are then doing a condition. Is it a condition attack here with that boolean? If it is, we go in and we set that enemy condition. This is where I haven't set up the chance of a condition happening. I haven't actually gone into that in detail yet. All it does is it will ultimately definitely set the code. There's no kind of... Or did I? Oh, I have! Ha! Never mind, I'm more ahead than I thought I was. Okay, never mind. So this will work. Don't worry, this will work no matter what. Okay? So the condition... Let's do it start to finish. So we get our current Ringmon, we're getting its active status, and we're checking if it has an active status already. If it does, if it comes back, oh no, I've done this backwards. Oh, I love finding bugs in my code. Does this have an active condition? Or is it equal to none? Sorry, is it equal to none? I think my thought process was, does it have a condition? No. So, you know. Right. Is it equal to none? So actually, it is the right way around. Is it equal to none? True, then we can continue on. Is it false? Enemy already has a condition, we return node. So if it is equal to none, we can carry on. We get that selected mon, we get the condition chance, and then we do a random integer between 1 and 100. If it is equal to or less than the condition chance, it's true. It has a chance to become poisoned or burned or frozen, etc. Selected move, get the condition used, and we set that to be its active status. And then we move on. Set the current Ringmon, carry on. Simple as that. It's very, very simple. And actually, I can't believe I did actually set up that condition chance. So there you go. It is a fully finished, fleshed out code. There you go. Love it. And then we update all the stats again. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. No, we don't. Set our enemy condition. We set a second delay. And then we do an enemy health check. The enemy health check is just as simple as checking if it's equal to 0. If it is true, we set that the enemy is dead. If it's false, it's not dead. And then we go back to the end bit here. Why do I keep going back to this? Get rid of all these. We don't need them anymore. We do a branch check to see if it's an encounter. If it is false, it's not an encounter. We update our trainer party. If it's true, we check to see if the enemy is dead. If it is dead, we calculate Team XP, which we'll cover in the next episode. We also do the enemy is defeated, which is a custom event at the top. And then off the branch, we check to see if the player is false, if it's not dead. Was the player first? If the enemy is dead. Is not dead. Oh my god, I'm getting this all confusing. If the enemy is not dead, we do a check to see if the player went first. If he did, it's the enemy's turn. If it's not, it's the end of the turn completely, and we go back to that end bit of code here. The enemy is very similar. There's not many differences between this. We check to see if the enemy can't move. We go down, we get the enemy information, and we get its move set. The difference with this is mainly here. We get the length of our move slots. We get the last index, which would be 0 to the maximum, which would be 3. We don't need that length. Sorry, we're just doing a last index. So let's get rid of that. Is the move slot equal? Oh, it's getting a random integer. Sorry, I was just trying to think out. Did I do that right? I did. So we get the move slot, we get the last index, and we get a random integer between 0 and 3 is being the maximum. And whatever it comes back with, we basically, if there's only one move, it's going to be 0 and 0. Or 0 and 1. Something like that. Maybe this minimum should be 1. Yeah. Because I'm going to have to do some checking now. I'm going to return it back to how it was for now, but I will double check something in a moment. So random integer between 0 and the maximum, doesn't matter, whatever it is. It's going to produce a result, which is a move. It's going to check to see if that equals the move slot. It should do. It's just more about getting a random integer at this point. And then we get a branch. It's going to come back true, because it's going to find something. And it's going to get that row name for that specific move. And then we're going to set that as our E selected move. Then we do an enemy accuracy check. There should be a dialog box there, but we're going to do an enemy accuracy check. And if that comes back true, we carry on. If it's false, we missed. Now the enemy accuracy check again is very similar. It's just the other way around. We get the enemy selected move. We get the current ringmon, which is the enemy ringmon. We times move accuracy by accuracy. And then we get the selected partymon, get its evasiveness. And we times our accuracy by the evasiveness. Random float within that. And whatever comes back is either the move hit or the move did not hit. Okay. Once we've done that, we do a camera switch to go to focus on the party, because that's what's going to get attacked. We break that E selected move strut, and it's the same thing again. Current multi-count, you can use the same two variables for this as well, the proceed. Enemy multi-hit, we do a delay for 1.5 seconds if it's false and go back into enemy multi-hit. Up at the enemy multi-hit, we do the enemy physical move. We check to do a health. We do a health check. We proceed if it's got no health. We then -1 off the current multi-count. And if that's true, if it's equaling 0, we proceed again. The enemy physical move is exactly the same stuff. It's just reverse. So again, current ringmon, we're getting that. And then it's like selected partymon and selected move. And I've just realized one mistake I've made. E selected move. Okay. So, yeah. So it should actually be using the E selected move, which is another bug I've just found there. Great, love it. This is how much I've been bug testing. I've literally been doing 3 days of bug testing, and I'm still finding some little bits and pieces. So expect like a bug update episode at some point in amongst the other stuff. But it's all the same. It's just swapping everything around. Okay, so you're taking the current Ringmon information. I also think that current level should be coming from here. Otherwise, it's taking your current level. Yeah. A couple more bugs there. There you go. So, okay. Oh, no. That was right. My apologies. I didn't realize that they were the other way around. Okay, fine. So, this is still current Ringmon. You're getting the Ringmon's attack, dividing it by your party Mon's defense. They are swapped round. It's just that they are still sat in the same place. I've just realized. I'm trying not to confuse you guys. I promise I will do a live of this at some point. But current Ringmon build, Ringmon basic structure. This is all the enemy information. You've then got your player information, so your Ringmon's information. We're now getting our defense and their attack, and we're dividing their attack by our defense, and we're setting that as A and D again. You can use the same variables; it will all work fine. We don't need that blooming print string anymore, so let's get rid of that. We then do a stab check again. Is there... I just want to go back to mine for a second because one of these isn't right, I don't think. Let's go back. I swear to God I did go through all this code. So we check our type 1 against our move. So actually, that's fine. We can then change this. So we want to check if their move, wherever it is, type 1, is equal to the move's typing. There we go. Okay. So yeah, we should be checking the enemy's typing against the move type. Is that true? They get a stab bonus if they're using the same move of the same creature. They do the same thing again, checking their moves against the typings on that typing database, checking to type 1, type 2. It's all the same, but it's just for their typings. It's against our typings. Because again, if you go into our physical move, it's their typings we're checking it against. Is our move we'll be using, so this move we're using, the enemy's using, is it good against the move, the typings of our creature? There's the same exact code up here. All of this is exactly the same. We're plugging the same values in, and then we're rounding it. We're minusing that off of the final struct health of our creature instead of their creature, and then we're setting our information, and we're setting our selected party mon, and then we're doing an update Ringmon party, and that should be that done. Compile. Oh gosh. Okay. Now that that's done, you can move on. It's the same thing again. Set the enemy condition. Is this move the enemy using in a status move? If that's true, we check to see if ours is none. If it's not, we do a condition chance, and then we set that active condition. I missed the stat attack, sorry, I apologize. Again, is affecting self or enemy goes in. And this time we debuff, oh. This isn't right also. Am I in the wrong area? That would probably be why. Let's go down. Enemy stat attack. There we go. So we debuff the player stats, update the Ringmon party, buff the enemy stats, update the trainer party if it's an encounter, if it's not an encounter. And then we do evasiveness down for the player. And you probably guessed it, it's stats up for the enemy. Very simple stuff. Check the condition. Then we set the party condition. We update the Ringmon party there. And then we check our player health. Okay, it's exactly the same. Selected party, break it down. HP, is it equal to or less than 0? Party dead or party true. Once that's all done, we can go back to the event graph. And then we do the same thing. Is the party dead? If that's true, we say Ringmon defeated. If it's false, we say player was the player first. If that's true, we end the turn. If it's false, player it's the player's turn. That's all the attacking, basically, in a nutshell. It's taken me well over an hour, so hopefully this was useful. We'll go into what happens when we defeat any ring mons in the game next episode, and then we've got capturing to do. This is all capturing down here. Oh my god, it's going to take so long. And then we've got all the littler things to do, like ring decks and storing ring mons and things like that. Hopefully you found this useful. I did go through it quite quick. I do plan on doing a live. Once every last episode's out, I will do one final live where I go through everything and answer any questions, and you can see the code live in the episode. You can ask questions live to me and all sorts of stuff. So keep an eye out for that, but that'll be probably in a few weeks' time. But thank you so much, guys, for watching. Hopefully you found this very useful and gives you an idea of where to go with your code. And just take your time with it. I did go through it very fast. Please join the Discord, ask some questions. You're more than welcome. And thank you so much, guys. I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.